And let's start casting.
When we get started, I got a question.
Okay, we are starting now.
Cool. My question is, will we create a new model or car or anything like that? Do we get like a successfully made type thing? And is there a way that we can like get the response data, basically just put that on there instead of like the car itself?
Yeah, let me do the refactoring and then we'll take a look more of that detail. Cool. Okay. Yes, that's a good question. We'll take a look at it. So let me start code, and let me start Rails, and let me start Yarn. So many things to start. And then we will look at refactoring. Oh wait, I think I already had it open. Okay, cool, I already had it open. Okay, I also figured out why my prettier wasn't working. At some point I had turned off the format on save, so prettier was there, just wasn't formatting anything. Okay, so what we had was this form stuck inside of this big mass of HTML that renders this form inside of this little app thing we've made. And oh, by the way, I also figured out this. The JavaScript for the button and the drop down. So I'm gonna show you all that in a little bit once I get this refactoring done. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the form out into its own component. So let's come back and make a new component. Let's call it create car.js. And then is it RCC? Yeah. So here's our create car, right? Standard thing. And what I'm going to grab from here is this form. I'm going to copy my form. Oops. And this is what I'm going to have this create car return. Right? So this is going to return this form. So now I can get rid of this form out of here, and I can just have a create car component. But what else do I need? I need my create car function. So let me delete that and move this over here. I'm going to get rid of the console logs, and I'm going to import Axios from Axios. Cool. So this is really kind of the minimal thing we need in our app. It's a little bit hard to read. Let me grab, someone want to cut the lights a little bit? Is that'll make it a little easier to see? Yeah, it's a little better. So this is really the minimal thing we need, is we need a form with, what happened to the rest of my inputs? I grabbed the wrong form. Ha ha. I grabbed the wrong form. Where's my create car? I grabbed the form. Come on. I grabbed the wrong form. I grabbed this form, which is our search form. Let me grab the correct form. Where's my form? Here's my form. I want to grab, wait, nope, that's the nav. See why it's so important to have these components? I want this form right here. I want all of this. This form all the way down. All the way down to here. This is the form that I want. This is create car. And this is right here. Yeah. So this is our create car form right here. This is better, right? So it's our form that has an on submit, and then it just has inputs, right? It's a little fancier here because we have some styling for Bootstrap, but it's really just a form tag with some input tags inside that have very specifically named names, price, mileage, body style, interior color, exterior color, etc. And a submit button, and then our create car will not try to actually submit the form, right? Forms have actions they want to do, just like links want to follow their href. So you have to tell the form, please don't do what you're going to do. We get the form, which is whatever this target was, right? What form was submitted for create car? As Toby was asking, form data is a built-in web browser class object, and we give it the form, and form data becomes all of these fields and their values. If we pass that to our API, all of the things that we typed into our form will be present. All of the various elements will be there when we submit this form. And then when the form comes back, maybe instead of adding the car, let's just console.log the response. Right? Rather than do something. And then maybe we won't reset the form. We'll just comment that out. So if this is our form, if we look at our API, oh, I see what's going on. Let me restart this. I only have the JavaScript app. Exit full screen. View. Exit full screen. Where is it? View, appearance, toggle full screen. This is the whole thing. Let me get the right window open. Right. So if we look at our API cars controller, right, that app.js is going to go to API, well, not create car.js, is going to go to API cars create. That's the URL that we told it to go to, where our API lives. API cars create will go to the API cars controller create method. And into that method come whatever parameters we pass. Right? We can always see those from the Rails controller. So let's type in 90210. This is a $5,000 car that's gone 2 miles. It's a 4-door. Let's see, blue interior with a brown exterior, and its model ID is 2. Okay. Let's take a look at what's going on in the browser when we submit this. Okay. Here's our post, and if we look inside of Web Inspector, all the way down at the bottom, can you see the form data? Let's make this a little slightly bit bigger. You see the form data, it has the same structure as our create car.js field names. All the field names here, input, name, car, interior color, are all the things here. Right? All of these things are the form data. If we look at the Rails console, what do those things turn into? They turn into a Ruby hash. Right? This hash has a key of car. The value of that is another hash. Car zip code. This car zip code becomes car and zip code. Right? So you can think of this as like a flattened, squished version of that nested object, right? If you took this, right? See how this car, zip code, price, mileage, body style, interior color, exterior color, model ID is the same as this. This is just a squished version of this. That's how the names in the form become our hash of parameters on the Rails server. And as long as we keep those in sync, then in our controller, right, these cars params require car, this car right here, or the same as this car right here in our Rails parameter, car, permit the zip code, the price, the mileage, the body style, interior color, exterior color, model ID. Now, if there was some parameter here we didn't want our users to be able to change, right, there are probably going to be API calls where you're going to be creating something or editing something. Maybe there's a field there that you don't want the person to be able to change. You just leave it out of this list. If you leave out of this list, whatever comes in, let's say we don't want them to be able to create the mileage, right? Maybe mileage is something that when you post your car for sale, we come to you and record the mileage. So we don't want the user to be able to specify the mileage. If we take this out of the params, no matter what that form has on it, we will not accept the mileage as an input parameter. It'll get dropped on the floor, right? There's nothing preventing, if you've ever seen a form where, maybe it's got your username and your password and you think there's like an admin field on that object, there's nothing stopping you from going into Web Inspector and adding a new input dynamically to that page, calling that field admin and putting a checkbox in it and submitting it along with that form, right? These forms are just like any other part of the DOM where we could come in as a user of this thing, right? And, start deleting things, right? And adding new fields, right? We as the user can control this form. So we as the backend programmer have to say, yeah, no matter what they do to my form, however they manipulate it, I'm never going to allow this field. Usually like 99, sometimes 100% of the fields that are in our model, we want users to be able to edit, but sometimes there are ones that are not. That's what this permit part does. Finally, we just say, hey, car, create your car params, and then render a JSON version of that car you just created, right? And that's what gives us this object that comes back, right? And the only thing that's new about this object, besides the one that we passed it, was this ID 36. Well, the updated and created at, right? This here, response.data from Axios, is this, right? You have to decide when you're building your API what makes sense for a return value, right? If all you're going to do is take that data and then navigate somewhere else in your app, you probably don't care what the data is. You just want to know, hey, did it work? So you can return the object you created. You could return a 200 response. Any of those things are fine. The only thing we haven't done here is handle any errors, right? What if this car was not created, right? So if we were coding this for real, we maybe would say something like, if the car is valid, then we'll render this. Otherwise, let's render the JSON car errors, right? So if we have a valid car, let's render back this. But if we have an invalid car, maybe what we do is, let's leave what's required. The zip code is required. Let's leave the zip code out. Right? So what happens if we have an invalid car? Right, what we get back is zip code can't be blank. We get back an array. We get back an object with zip code as an array can't be blank. So This is where in your React code, right, maybe you would look at this response, right, and look to see what it has inside of it. Say if I see something with errors, then I'm going to do something other than another thing. That depends on what kind of validation your app has, right? That's why as we design out these pages, if we handle yes, what happens when it's good, and yes, what happens when it's bad, right, we'll know what to return from our controllers. Right? So I think this is good as a nice isolated example of here's how you deal with a form. Right? And I'm going to leave this in the repository so you all can look at it and kind of use this as a template to how you might deal with forms in your homework or forms in your app. So let's see how we're doing on time. Let's cover. I kind of want to go back and edit this for dropping down the list of models, but I think I'm going to punt that. Because what I want to cover now is image uploading, which for the long time in Ruby and in Rails has been kind of complicated. We've needed lots of third-party libraries to do it, and they've not been super easy. In the past, I've shown students my favorite library for managing image uploads, which I thought was pretty easy, and it is. But in Rails 5, we now have, if you look in the guide, it will be in here, active storage. So you'll notice that a lot of the Rails components are things like active record and active support and active job. Active storage is the part of Rails, the library that lets us deal with uploading images. Right? And it says here, active storage uploads files to a cloud storage service like Amazon S3. So this is Amazon's computing cloud. Right? You may have seen Amazon doing a lot of advertisement lately for AWS, right? We're powering the internet. So S3, Simple Storage Service, is the part of Amazon's cloud provider that lets you upload files. Google has their own called Cloud Storage. Microsoft has Azure. And there are many others. Right? What it allows us to do is when users upload data to us, we don't store it in our database. We store it in one of these cloud providers. Because storing these files in these cloud providers is really cheap, like pennies for gigabytes, kind of cheap. Right? Active storage comes with local disk-based storage while you're in development. So while you're coding on your desktop, you don't have to have an S3 or a Google Cloud or an Azure or any of those kinds of things until you're ready to go into production and you sign up for one of these services and your production server stores data there. But while you're local, it just kind of stores these uploads on your laptop. In addition, if we have a couple local tools, one called Image Magic, we can take image uploads and resize them dynamically. So someone uploads a huge image, 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels out of their super high def camera, but you just want to show thumbnails, right? Active storage can do that for you automatically. So kind of like for your album, you don't want to show the huge image. One, because it's so slow to load, and two, that's a lot of bandwidth for your user, right? So it can automatically make thumbnails, which is really cool. So I want to skip past the setup for a second. No, I'm going to spend 1 second on the setup. So by default, active storage is not enabled for your Rails project, whether it's API mode or not. We've got to run one command to start it, and it's this one hidden right inside of here. So for our Rails project, we're going to run Rails space active storage :install. And what this is going to do is create one migration file for us. So if we look, what's happened is we have one migration file created for us here. And Rails has created a couple tables for active storage of blobs, binary large objects, and active storage attachments. These two tables are not things that we create or have to deal with, but they need to exist in our project, and lucky for us, that's what Rails active storage install will do. What do I do? Let me make sure I have that last work separated, right? So far the only thing we've done is created this migration, right? We created this migration. The storage.yml file that's found in our config folder, app config storage YML. This is a YAML file. That's another way of storing data, kind of like JSON is a storage format. This is a YML file. When we get to production and you deploy your app, if you have image uploads or anything like that, I will help you set up a free service where we can store our files so you don't have to sign up for AWS or Google or any of those and pay. But for now, the local disk one will work just fine. Right? When we get to production, I'll show you how to set this up. So this now lets us have a configuration and a database where we're going to store our images. And this section goes through all the different Microsoft and Google Cloud and all those setups. We don't really need any of those. Section 3 is really what we need. Right? We want to be able to say certain records in our system, certain models, have files attached to them. So let's add to the car one more thing. We want to have an image along with every car, right? We want every car in our system to say, like, hey, here's the picture of that car. So what we need to do in our model is declare has one attached or has many attached. Right? Depending on how many files we want associated to one record. So if our autotrader said, hey, upload a front picture of your car and a back picture of your car and give me a picture of the engine and I want to see a picture of the interior, we would say has many attached, right? That a car has many attached images. But for our sake, we're just going to do one. So we're going to come into our car model and saying has one attached image. Has one attached image. We can call it picture. The name here is a kind of a Taco Tuesday, right? But it matters what we call it.
Will that create another column in our table?
It will not. So it requires no migrations to our models, which is really awesome, right? That migration that Rails created, now anything in our app can have an attachment. We just have to say what we're calling that attachment. So our makes and our models could have attachments. Maybe the make has an attachment of the company's logo, right? Or maybe the model has a picture of like what a standard, VW Golf looks like. Any application record, any of our models can have images associated with them, which is awesome. We don't have to go back to each model and tell it what's going on. We just say, hey, this has one attached picture. I don't know, let's call it picture, not image.
How is that working? So it's another table and you can just like kind of reference it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those two tables, now anybody can put pictures into those tables. And Rails kind of keeps track of, well, this is a picture for a car, this is a picture for a make, this is a picture for a user, this is a picture for what. We don't have to worry about how it stores them. We just say, hey, you created your migration that creates those Rails tables, and then just go through my app saying what has pictures. That's very nice. Okay, our car has one attached picture. Now, when we have our params, we need to add one thing. We need to tell in the list of params for a car, we need to tell it about the picture. So in the cars controller admin, we need to say, hey, in addition to all of these things, you also have a picture. And in the API cars controller, guess what? You also have a picture. Right? Please allow that parameter through as well. The car has a picture. Now, I'm going to skip the has many. I'm going to skip this. Now what we can do is find the section on forms. Really? This is about direct uploading. File. Did I miss it? Did I miss the section? It has one attached, removing, linking, previewing, discarding. Did I miss the section where it shows how to do the form? Here's the class, here's the attach, here's the thing, removing, linking, routes, downloading, classes, transforming, previewing, direct uploads. Okay, I'm just going to show you because it's not a good example. So let's go into the views. Before we get to React, let's go to our admin. And let's go to our views, admin, cars, form. So in our car form for our admin, let's make another div class field, and let's make a form label for picture. Now, this is a slightly different kind of field. It's not a text or a number. It's a file field. Is that right? It's a file field for picture. So if we go into our admin, localhost 3000 admin cars. Am I not running the server? Oh, I have to restart the server. And you know what I'm also going to do? I'm going to delete all the cars that are here. Just so we have a clean starting point. Oh, and I forgot to run the migration. Right, remember that installer for active support added the migration. Oh, and I did this yesterday, so ooh. Rails DB I practiced this, so PGCLI. I already created the tables, so I need to go and get rid of them. So I'm going to cheat for a second. Ignore this part. Drop. You would not normally do this. You would not normally go in and drop the tables because they wouldn't exist for you. But since I practiced this to make sure that I knew it was right, I need to drop this table. I need to drop this table first. Then I need to drop this table. Okay, cool. Ignore that bit. Let's migrate. Yay! That's what I should have done, right? This failed because I had already in another trial project migrated those two things. Now I can edit this car. There are no cars in our system. Let's make a new car. 90210, $1,000, 3,000 miles. It's a coupe. Black on black. Oh, and I wiped out all the models. Shoot. Let's go find a picture of a VW Golf. Here. Save image as on my desktop, Golf. So you see already now that my admin has this picture thing that when I click it, right, it's asking me for a picture. When I create the car, yeah, shoot. I don't have any models in the system. Let me go make a couple, let me go recreate my models. My makes and my models. Shoot.
Can you use pings? Sorry.
Yes.
PNGs.
VW, let's create a make. Let's create a model. Golf, create a model. Let's go back to cars.
Does it filter by file, or is it just whatever you get done?
It's whatever you can upload. It does not care, but we can eventually tell it.
So right now you could like upload a Word doc.
I could, and then it would be confused. But there is a way to tell it at upload time which types of things you want to accept. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's do this again. 90210. Now we have a make and a model in here. Coupe, black, black. Let's choose a file. Our Golf. Create the car. Cool. Has anything happened? Let's go take a look. In our storage folder, oh, look at this. In this storage folder, right, I said it's going to keep these files temporarily. Oops. Oh, you know what? That's a weird file format. What file format did I get? I didn't even look. Was it a PNG?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. I have these storage things, right? This is the actual uploads being stored on disk. In production, when we finally deploy, these won't be on disk. They'll be in Amazon or Google or somewhere. But we'd like to be able to show the image here, right? So, active storage also gives us here a way to show the image. We can say URL for, in our case, this is car picture. So on our show HTML for our car, we can add another, say, an image tag whose source is, and here we can say URL for car picture. We can add a tag for the car picture. Oh, and sorry, it's at car, right? Our instance variable car picture in our form. There's my VW Golf. We do images so often that we have an image tag helper that just takes the URL for the car picture. Right? We don't have to write our own image tag, we just say image tag. There's our car picture. That's about it for being able to upload and store an image. Now, what if I don't want a huge image, right? I want a smaller version of it. If I add this gem called Mini Magic to my project, we do that by editing the gem file one of two ways. We can say, hey, gem file, you have the library Mini Magic, and then I can bundle, this is like yarn add, go into my gem file and say, hey, Ruby, you have another gem library. The other way you can do it is you can say bundle, add, and the name of the gem, Mini Magic. Either of those work.
What is this part for?
So this is for transforming images. We need a third-party thing to edit and transform images. So we need this Mini Magic. We also need, on our local machine, to brew install image magic. I want to make sure I get the name correct. So you also need to brew install image magic, spelled IMAGEMAGICK. Right, you need to add the mini magic gem and the image magic brew. Those two things together, once we restart our server, we will be able to ask for a variant. We will be able to ask for a variant and resize something. So now we can say, no, I want an image tag for the car picture variant at, let's say, resize to 75 by 75 pixels. Okay. Now if I reload this, what is an invariable error? Variable error. Haven't gotten that one before.
Did you say resize?
I did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, car picture, not user avatar. Variant, resize 75 by 75. We added mini magic, right? And I have.
If you rerun your app.
Yeah, let me make sure. Let me start and stop it. I thought I did. Should be able to ask for a variant of the image. If not, we're going to Google search what an active storage and variable error is. Yep. What is active storage and variable error? I haven't seen this. Let's see what old Stack Overflow has to say what this is. Oh, that's cool. Moderation. Okay. Must have been a lot of controversy talking about image invariant. Yeah, that's where we're going next after this one. Yeah, that's where we're going next. If we don't figure this out in like a couple minutes, we'll see what we do.
Will that slice a picture or stretch it?
It can do both.
Okay.
So all the things inside of that resize are all of what image magic can do. And image magic has options for you can crop it and you can stretch it and you can maintain the aspect ratio or have it hit the height or the width, whichever one happens first, and put borders around the rest. Image magic is pretty amazing. The things it can do. Aha.
So because it's a gem, you don't have to import it. It's just kind of in there.
Yeah. They're not variable images, meaning I can transforms. When you try to apply, you get an invariable error. To apply some configuration. So it says this means that the image type cannot be transformed. But didn't we upload a PNG file?
Mm-hmm.
Let me make sure. Aha. It is not actually a PNG file. It says it's a PNG file, but it's not.
How can you tell that?
Because when I open up the file, it tells me I can't open it. The preview can't open it, but I have an even better tool. So you can brew install media info. There's a tool called media info, which I love. Media-info. and it will tell me what it is. It's a WebP image. It's not a PNG. And apparently it doesn't know how to rescale WebPs. So let's try this again. Car, delete all. Let's go find a picture again. Unsplash. My favorite site for images. And these will be great because this file will be huge. Car. By the way, if you're looking for images, if you need images for your project, Unsplash is great. Here we go. Let's use this one. Let's move it to the desktop.
If they want to trade golf for golf, I'm down for that one.
Yeah. And let's call this car. Let's make sure it's really a JPEG.
Are you just like drag and drop them?
Yes. So you can grab a file and drag it to your terminal, and when you drop it, it will just give you the path to the file.
Nice. Can you do that with any folder?
Yes. Yep. So if you have a folder somewhere, you can also click this and drag it, and that will drag the folder name. So often if I want to work with a file and like I have a tool I want to use, like media info, I can type media info space and go find the file in my Finder and drag it into here, and it will type out the whole name for me. And yes, this is a JPEG file. Sweet. Let's try this so we don't get this invariant error. So back to our app. Cars. There are no cars. New car. 90210. 10,000. It's been 30 miles. It is a sports car. I think it was yellow. It was black interior and a yellow exterior, if I remember correctly. We're going to say it's a VW Golf, but it isn't. Let's upload the car, create it. There we go. Our 75 by 75 pixel.
Is that? It looks rectangular.
Yeah, it's probably keeping it to 1 aspect ratio. I think in this mode, what it's doing is it is moving to 75 pixels and then keeping the aspect ratio out on the other side.
So it defaults to keep aspect.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think if we do something like this, I think the syntax is an exclamation mark. That's exactly 75 pixels by 75 pixels, right? What's neat is it's actually cached all of those versions of that image. So if I come down here to storage, here are the variants of that image. Really, it won't show me a JPEG, right? So when I reload this page, it's not recomputing that. See how much faster that was the second time? It's not refiguring out that. It's stored a copy of it. But if I just say, hey, give me the picture, right? There's the whole picture at its original resolution, right? I still have the original picture. So maybe in your main app, right, you keep a little thumbnail, but when they click onto the big picture, like in a photo gallery, you show them the much bigger one. And you can decide what size those thumbnails are. Let's add this to the API so our API can then list it. So let's go to our cars controller in our API. Here's our JSON. Let's add picture. It's going to be the URL for the cars picture. Right? So now I think if we go to API cars.
Is that a Ruby thing, URL for?
Mm-hmm. It's a Rails thing. API cars index. Aha. Right? So now the picture is the URL of where to find that image. Right? If I just load that URL, that's the image. Okay. The picture, maybe you call it picture URL. Right? It's going to be the URL for the car's picture. Right? The picture URL is going to be that. So let's come back to here. Now, and in this list item, let's use that car picture. You know what we want is we want the variant that is resize 75 by 75. Let's do that. Now, in our app.js, in addition to in our UL, where's our little UL? Let's also put in an image whose source is car.picture URL. Yeah, and since we're in Bootstrap, we can say class name equals float right, because they have built-in classes for putting things on the right-hand side. And there's our car in our list.
When you say they have built-in, they're talking about
Part of Bootstrap.
Bootstrap.
Yeah, part of Bootstrap has a float right that will take whatever the thing is and put it on the right-hand side of whatever's in there. Yeah. So now inside of our little list, we have the image. Let's add the same thing to our client API so that people can add images. Let's go to the car, create car. Let's just do the same thing. Let's make a new div. Class name is a form group. This is how we're doing this with Bootstrap. Let's make a label whose HTML4 is picture. And the image is picture of your car. The input is going to be type file, class name for Bootstrap, form control. ID is picture. A name is, you want to guess?
Image?
Nope.
Car dot.
Not dot.
Car, square brackets, URL for.
Nope. Picture. Because the name of the column in the database is picture. And let's end this image. Hey, picture of your car. Let's go get another picture. Unsplash. Let's search for car. Let's first search something not as spectacular. Oh, this one's cool. Let's download this one. What? It's so cool, it's not giving us the picture. Let's go with, oh my God. Why is everything a sports car? Here we go. Something that's old school cool. There we go. Cool. I think this file's like 6 megabytes. Right. How big is it? Yeah, 3.7 megabytes. Cool. So let's come back to our app. 33703. We're selling this thing for 10 grand. It's been 4,000 miles. Its body style is what do we describe this as? Like a two-door. And I even forget what color it was already. Can't really tell what color it is. White. And what color would we call this? Brown? Rust. It's a model number 1. Let's choose the file in my downloads folder. Submit. Let's reload the page. There it is. Okay. I only made an input whose type is file. As long as I name the thing the right thing, off I go. right? Image uploading and resizing is just about as easy as any other kind of data type now that we have active storage. So not that hard to add image uploading to what we're working with, right? So you can imagine if you were uploading a profile picture or you're uploading an image to go with your photo model, right? Just walk through the same things we just did here for the car, and you'll be able to handle the uploads. There's more fancy things you can do with this. There's this idea of previews. So if you think about things like PDFs or videos, right? You may not want to load the entire PDF, but maybe you want a preview of the first page of the PDF, or you want to embed the entire video. You want a still image or the first couple of seconds. If you're dealing with those kinds of documents, Active Storage can preview things. You can also directly upload. So rather than have to send the image from the user's machine to your app and from your app to your storage provider, you can have them send it just to the storage provider, because often your app is the slowest part of that process, right? So AWS uploads really fast, Google Cloud Storage upload is really fast, but your app might be slow. So you can tell it to create a direct upload URL, and when that form is submitted, it goes straight to the storage service. That's kind of cool. And then if you get fancy, there is some code in here. I forget where I saw it. So that if the uploads are large, and I don't think this is the case for you, but you can have a little progress bar as the image is uploading. Right? So if you're uploading, like John's project is going to be a photo management website, and his images may be dozens of megabytes, hundreds of megabytes for super high res stuff. You would want some kind of feedback as that file is uploading. So there's some example in here of adding progress bars. Is this the one, I think? Yeah, of doing multiple uploads and progress bars. Right? So if you want to get fancy, we can continue to do more fancy stuff. What I've done here is just the most direct version, but you can see you can do multiple uploads at a time and show the progress of each upload.
The direct storage, what does that look any different?
A little bit. You got to go through a couple more. Got to jump through a couple more hoops. For what you all are doing, I wouldn't recommend necessarily dealing with it. That would be like if I had spare time at the end and you feel like doing that. You also have to have a service provider that supports it. So for most of you, when you get ready to deploy, come see me if you have images. I will set you up for a provider that's free, that you won't have to pay for. But the limits are things like the image sizes can only be like 20 megabytes. It will reject anything over 20 megabytes. With S3 and Azure and Google Cloud, you have to sign up and give them a credit card and they will bill you. It will be pennies, but I still don't think it's worth for a student project to have to deal with that. Because you don't want some jerk finding this and be like, I'm uploading terabytes of images to your thing, and then you get like a $50 bill at the end of the month from Amazon. That's not worth it. So I will provide you a free service you can sign up for, and you'll just live with the 20 meg upload. It'll be fine. Right? And all we have to do is we sign up and we get a couple of secret keys from them. They'll give you it's got API keys, and we plug them into your app, and off you go. But all of this works. You don't have to change anything at that point. We'll just do a couple of configuration things for production when I show you that later this week, and off you go. So these things you can do now, right, and be ready for these images to be here. And then when you're in production, they will just work. Yeah. So it's not a whole lot more than adding text or numbers or what to your app. Just a couple things we've got to go through. We've got to run that installer, run the migration. We've got to tell our car that we have an attached picture. We have to tell our car controller that we're going to add the picture param. And whatever APIs need to have access, we just need to make sure we have a field in our JSON that says where's the picture, right? And then we can deal with these variants and resizing things, right? Right, if we come in here and say 275 pixels, right, it took a second to resize those pictures. Now we have bigger pictures. See, the second time it didn't take as long because it wasn't spending all of its time resizing those pictures. Right. This was a really well done addition to Rails and has made image uploading so much more simpler than it was before.
That just came out Christmas?
No, this was Rails 5 that was released, I don't know, a year or two ago. Yeah, Ruby 2.6 was just for Christmas, but Rails 5 has been out for a while. Rails 6 is probably going to be released in April. So while major versions of Ruby tend to come out at Christmas, major versions of the Rails framework come out around the time that Rails conference happens, and that's April this year, I think. Yeah, Rails Conf 2019. Where's it going to be? Minneapolis. Cool. So if any of you end up working for a Ruby place and you want to go to RailsConf, this is kind of the big thing of the year in the Rails world. So I haven't been in a couple years, but it's always a good time. Yep. So that's pretty much it for image uploading. How many things did we change? Let's go see. We didn't change a lot. Let's review what we changed. We added something to our gem file, mini magic. We added that. Here, let me exit full screen. Appearance, toggle full screen. Right. We added mini magic. In our cars controller, we added picture to the end. Same thing for our API. We added picture to the end, and we added a picture URL in our index so we can get the list of not just the ID, the zip code, the price, the mileage, but also the picture. In our car, we said has one attached picture. In our app, when we're listing the pictures, we just add an image. Source is the car's picture URL. We add this little float right because we had some nice styling from Bootstrap. In create car, we just added an input. This is really the key here. The input type file name is car picture. Everything else, again, is outside of that is just styling. The div, the label, the class name, the ID, those things are just for styling. All we really need is input, type is file, name is car bracket picture. The migration was created for us automatically, and the schema is just updated every time you run migration. Just those things in that kind of order.
I remember running migration. What did we do that after?
We did that after we did the install. So we did, do I still have the guide open? No. In the active storage guide in section 2, we ran this, Rails active storage install, and then we ran db migrate. So you run Rails space active storage :install, and you can pretty much run Rails db migrate after that. Then we skipped all the configuration of cloud services stuff, blah, blah, blah. And we said cars has one attached car. And then we went through and we updated all the places in our car controller. We added a picture parameter. In the cars API, we added the picture URL with the URL4, the small version of the image. Right. You could even here, if you wanted to, right? And again, this is all up to you, how you want to work this. Right? What if instead we wanted this? Picture is an object, thumbnail, URL for car picture variant resize 75 by 75, comma, full size URL for car picture. You could do this as well, and you wouldn't need this picture URL, right? Send them both URLs, and then the user the front end can decide, does it want the thumbnail or the full size? That would look like this. Car picture thumbnail. Right? We're diving through that object. Car picture thumbnail. That would work as well. Okay. That's pretty much it. Adding pictures.
Never mind.
Yeah. Try it on your project. Right? When you get to the point where you either have the admin interface or you have a form that you can post regular information to, flow through these instructions again and see if you can add the image stuff. Right? That's why I say start without the images and then add them later, because they're not that hard to add once you've already created your other columns. That's why I said, Michelle, earlier, when you create your album and your photo, don't worry about the actual picture, because we can add that later without really having to change very much. So we can do all of the work up to having the picture before we actually have it. Let me make sure this still works. Yeah. All right. We could even do something crazy like float right full size source equals car picture full size. Okay, what does that look like? All right. And maybe what we do is in our index CSS, we have full size hidden. Yeah. And in our app, let's have this be maybe what we do is we have an on click this dot handle click thumbnail. I'm spitballing here. What if we add a handle, what do I call it? Handle click thumbnail. Takes an event, it calls this, let's add a state. Let's call it showing full size, and by default it's false. This dot.
Case that on click.
Did I make a mistake before? Let me take a look in a second. Showing full size is true. Whoa! Random click. Showing full size is true. And you're saying that below I have a. Yes, thank you. Good catch. And then the class name here, we can make dynamic. Let's make it a dynamic string. Just showing a random example. What is going on? So here, this dot state dot showing full size. If that's true, the class is nothing. If that is false, hidden. A little ternary in there. And now, if I click this, right, then I see the full size images. We would do something a little bit different, but just to show you could have some kind of button that says, do I want to see the. Right. And maybe what we do is we make this a toggle. this is the opposite of whatever this dot state dot showing full size is, and that will toggle it. Full size, not full size, 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 right? Just a couple of, right? So that's why when we say, like, when we figure out what our data needs to be, when you figure out what your user interface needs to be, if I designed this so that I knew I wanted the small image and the big image, then I know when I make my cars controller API, I need two different images. I need the thumbnail and the full size, right? If you don't need that, you don't have to put it in there, right? Don't over put things in there that you don't need, but if you do, you do, right? If you want to eventually add the thumbnail and then you want them to have like a big picture, right? You can put multiple sizes in there. But if you don't need to, then you don't have to. But just by saying, hey, I want a variant resize of whatever it is, it will figure that out for you and give it to you. I think that's really awesome. This used to be like a multiple day thing with us trying to get this set up and the tools and the whatnot. And then Rails 5 came, it's like, nope, super easy. Adds picture image uploading to our car model. Right. If you need the reference, again, it's still in the Rails guides. It's just under active storage. That's where the upload bits are. Cool. Hopefully the folks who need image uploading, right, don't be too shocked when it comes time to do this. It's not that bad. And with all things, like, just come see me if you're not sure, and we'll walk through it. This is the kind of thing, after you have your regular forms done, you would come back and add this later. I would suggest get the other parts done, if it's a user profile or if it's something for your trips or something for you if you have an image upload. Get everything else working first and then add this afterwards. Because if you're trying to get this working at the same time, you're going to be stumbling over two stumbling blocks at the same time, and separate them. Do your regular form first, add this in. Cool. Any other questions so far? Cool. A couple of you have come to me with your models looking good. Start generating your apps and scaffolds. Question?
Can you show us how you get the hamburger menu working?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. It was two things. Actually, it was three things. In the index.js, you add this line right here. And you add two packages. You add yarn add bootstrap-jquery and yarn add popper.js. And then now the hamburger menu works. Come on, is this still full screen or something? Yeah. You exit full screen. All right, now the hamburger menu works. All right. So if we wanted to, we could have this such that our little admin menus are underneath here. Let's go do that. Where's our, so here's our admin makes, and we wanted to put that in the dropdown. So let's change this dropdown to say admin, and then have this go to /admin makes index, and have this go to /admin models index. And then let's have this go to admin cars index. And I think we can get rid of this one. Get rid of this menu item, list item. And then if we fix this thing with the 3000, 3001, we're on the makes page. Oops. Sorry, it's not makes index, it's just makes. makes, models, and cars. Right? Makes, models, and cars. So this is how you would like link your, in your admin section, you could just put links to those routes in there. Let's get rid of the disabled one because that looks like junk. And then let's move that zip code search up here. That's the input for it. Where's the search? Right here. So all we need to do is move the value and the onChange into here and get rid of this. And then instead of this button, we have these buttons. Right, so what we need to do is we need to on-click here for search by zip code, and we'll work on the all later. So I think we have a 902 search. Oh, it's reloading the page. Oh, because we're not on the home page. 3001 here. 902 search. Let's get rid of this form down here. We don't need this form anymore. Now we're just playing. Oh, this search by zip code now needs a event prevent default. So we should be able to say 90210 search. Oh, and in our cars controller API, we need this picture in our search results as well. Right, because it's a different API, different set of JSON that comes back. Let's try this again. So we have our two cars here. Right, we have our two cars here. If we search for 90210, we have our one car. 33703, we have our one car. Let's move create car back down underneath the list. Here's our two cars. 902 search. 3370 search. All right, starting to feel more like an app we would really use, right? And all I've really done is sprinkle some plain Bootstrap CSS into it. Maybe we wouldn't have this Jumbotron anymore. All right, maybe that Jumbotron is too ridiculous. Where's the Jumbotron? Maybe this is like an H3. Does that change it? This is a 3 now. Nope. Maybe we get rid of the Jumbotron. Wonder if this, does that change the size? I don't know what the display 4 does. Oh, it does change the size. Okay, maybe that's better. I don't know. All right, we'd play around with it. 9, there's our one car. All right. But we've slowly been adding things to this without too much trouble. Cool. What did we change here? Cars controller. Let's see, we added full-size images and thumbnails. And click on thumbnail to toggle. Also moved the search into the nav bar.
It lets you commit even though you're 30-something lines over, 30-something characters over.
Yes. Yep.
Does it commit the whole message?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Oh, man.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just
I have shortened my message so many times.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What you should be doing is not using this, but using something else. You type up a message, and then normally what you do is you type your message, right? Short message here, longer text here, blah, 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 more text, more text, right? As separate. The very first line needs to be short, and the others can be long.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, you can type whatever you want. If you want to type more, just press enter and make new paragraphs. But you don't have to listen to that message. It's just, some teams are really picky about that because what they want is, here's the reason why. When you type get log, see this, right? That's super long, right? Get log, long dash dash format equals short. One line. Right? When you do this kind of thing, right, and you get the one line, see how long this is, right? This is why they say, like, cut it off like here, because when you do this tabular style list of commits, they want a short description of what that commit does. If you want to see more, you'll drill in and get the whole description.
So the one line only shows like the first line of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Even though there could be a paragraph under there?
Exactly.
You're
Yep.
supposed to put like a whole line in between where you enter? Or
Yeah,
just like
a blank line. So the first line is a short line, a blank line in between, and then you can type a big old long paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of float about in between. I don't want whole paragraphs, but I want a little bit more than the length that they suggest. So I end up somewhere in between, longer than they suggest, but if I find myself starting to type paragraph, I break and put the longer paragraph below.
Okay.
Cool.